Watch the clip. It's a very short conversation of me outside a shopping centre in Sao Paulo, and then we'll break down some learning points from that. So we're with, set the scene, we're in Mexico City, we're with a current client, and he's got all the value adds there, but he typically has a very negative rumination cycle of like doom and gloom, like the women he approach is going to go badly. And the main reason he was actually on the boot camp is to prove to himself and break himself out of this philosophy of this doom and gloom, like things just don't work, cold approach doesn't work, right? So we started the session yesterday. He was quite drained. He'd been on a few dates. He'd been doing quite well, but it was one of those days where he'd had a few mezcals the day before. He woke up, he was a bit hungover. Negative rumination cycle, we're on repeat. We often repeat the biggest predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And he was just feeling like shit. And I could see he was a bit in his own head, feeling a bit nervous. And we see this cute girl, right? What happened was I saw him look at this cute girl. He did the kind of take and the take again. And I kind of looked at him expectantly, and he would like to say, all right, you're going to approach. And he was like, I don't know, I'm not really feeling it. I was like, well, but if you remove the kind of rumination, is she your type? And he goes, absolutely. I was like, well, just what's the worst that could happen? Dr. Pepper moment, right? And he went in and opened the girl, and she was incredibly receptive. He had an amazing conversation.
Completely opposite to what he expected, basically.
Yes, and from just having that conversation as well, he not only got the number and was texting her, he completely changed how he felt in his own mind. He suddenly went from completely negative, glass half empty, to glass half full.
Okay.
So there's a similar clip to this. There's a comparable learning point in the clip we're about to play. So watch the clip. It's a very short conversation of me outside a shopping centre in Sao Paulo, and then we'll break down some learning points from that. Oi, tudo bem? Fala inglês?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say hi. I thought you looked very nice.
Thank you.
And I was like, oh, I need some. Yeah, I want to see if she has any recommendations.
But what? Because I'm from Rio. Actually, I'm going to the airport now.
Carioca.
Getting back to my city, yeah.
I've been, I came to Carnival 5 times in Rio, and the first time this year I go to Salvador. Yeah, I change. I'm like, I feel a bit bad because I have friends in Rio going, James, you're a sellout. You've come 5 times. Now you go to the rival Carnival, and I'm like, yeah.
What do you sell?
Sell.
I'm a seller.
Seller? Salvador? Seller? Drug dealer? Are you a drug dealer? Are you offering me drugs?
My Uber is there.
Next
Next time you're going.
To Rio. I'm actually going to be in Rio in April. Do you have WhatsApp?
Yeah.
Do you want to take my number and send me a message?
Okay.
I'll be there in 1 month. And I'll stay in probably Leblon. It's my favourite.
Okay.
Yeah?
Type it.
What's your name? Qual é seu nome? Prazer em conhecê-lo, James.
Detatching.
Por que fala inglês?
Because I work with it.
Very cool. There you go.
Thank you, Jane.
Nice to meet you.
So just for that was great, by the way. That was really cool. It just works so well when story gets told, because then it's like it creates that open loop, and it's like I was with a client and this interesting thing happens. Well, what was it, right? We can connect to it.
And
the great thing about it is an individual story.
Yeah.
Because people can connect to that rather than, well, this sometimes happens and this is how you
No,
feel.
it's not. Like, it's not groupthink. You want it to be to the individual.
Exactly, like a specific story. So let's carry on. That was really good, by the way. So link it back and really link. It would be great if you could feel like put yourself in your shoes. More than 3 or 4 years ago.
Man, I'm naturally stagnant socially, so you can. It's a micro and a macro thing, right? You go a couple of days without talking to people, and you're back in that mindset.
But if you put yourself in the shoes of being the corporate job, you've just left. You've had a whole lot of sales calls, and you're about to see feel it.
Well, that's
when you
the role.
Speak to the person, right?
Yeah, no, I will. Not the sales part though, because that actually keeps you, ironically, on the ball.
For sure, but you get the point.
The
right?
average guy, yeah.
Yeah.
So, to set the scene, myself and Les had gone out. We'd had a few too many cachaças the night before, slightly hungover. We knew we had to do some filming, right? I was with in the rare circumstance where me and Les were in the same place, and we had to make the most of it. I was in that mindset that a lot of guys will resonate with, which is working in a corporate job, very antisocial on the keyboard. 10 hours a day, not interacting with other human beings, but you've got to go out and socialize because your dating life isn't where you want it to be. So you leave the office or the home office, remote, whatever, and you come out and you're incredibly centered in your own thoughts and in your head and negative rumination, and you're not in the present. And that was exactly the situation I had. I was operating on very little sleep. I met Les. We were doing the standard thing of walking along the street, not even talking to each other, just kind of head down like the caveman routine. And but we knew we had to do some filming. So I saw the girl, and there's always those 1,001 excuses you give yourself as to why you don't need to approach. Oh, she's not hot enough. Oh, she's too hot. Oh, I'll do the next one. I'll just get warmed up. I'll leave this one. I'll do the next one. Oh, she's too old for me. Oh, she's not old enough. Whatever it is, right? We all have this. It's your mind with that unconscious stream of excuse creation you create. And this was particularly prevalent when I was working a city job, because I would come out of the job and be incredibly socially stagnant, naturally introverted in my own head as well. But what you learn to do is leapfrog into the present moment. So exactly like our client George did the other day, yesterday, you hear the excuse in your mind, you consciously override it, you bypass it, and then you take the action anyway. And what ended up happening was, with this girl, it was a quick conversation, but we text back and forwards, and I ended up meeting her in Rio. I went to Rio about a month after Sao Paulo, and we ended up meeting up, going for a drink together, and we got on really well. So I think the key learning point to this video is proving yourself wrong. We tell ourselves tales and narratives, all this rumination in our head, which is not based in reality, right? And your brain on an evolutionary level is always going to be trapped in the comfort zone protection. Don't step outside of that. You've got to consciously override that, and just, if you see a girl you like, take the action. Doesn't matter what you feel like or how you think, fuck that, and jump into the present. Leapfrog into the present and take the action, take the moment. And often you prove yourself completely wrong. So it happened with this one where I was expecting the worst. It ended up like a fine conversation. I ended up seeing the girl again. And the same with the client the other day, exactly the same thing, all doom and gloom. But he leapfrogs into the present, and he had this amazing conversation, and, you know, texts the girl and ends up meeting up with her. So I guess the key learning point would be almost self-awareness, better the devil you know. You know in advance that your brain, when you see that hot girl, the hardest thing for a lot of clients to do is train themselves to pull the trigger. And by that I mean they see the girl, and you have that delayed reaction to taking action, and you override the excuses that come into your mind, and then you take the action anyway, right?
So what you're alluding to is basically the fact that you've sat down from a very rational place before and made the decision that you want to be social in your life. And then when you see that girl, all the negative emotions kick in. Like, oh, I don't feel like it. It's late. I'm a little bit tired. I need to get home. You essentially need to keep those quiet, or shut them up and try and override them when you see the girl.
Accept them, acknowledge them, but then take the correct course of action anyway, because your thoughts don't determine your actions unless you allow them to.
Well, something you said the other day, which was quite interesting, is that you're not your thoughts.
You're
right?
not your thoughts.
You're not your thoughts.
You can use the power of the brain, right? When you want to do something like, I want to go to the gym, you can consciously harness your thoughts to make you do the action. But what happens is, in life, you have your brain, and then you have an unconscious stream of thoughts. And when you're put in a situation that scares you, those thoughts become more rapid and more unconscious. So the more that is your dream goal you see, the more your brain will bracket in excuses not to take the action.
I think as well, it's realizing that in those situations, your thoughts are actually not working for you, but they're working completely against you. And I think viewing that from a very high level perspective,
exactly,
and looking at it from a rational place and going, I really don't feel like this, but I've made the rational decision before to really improve my dating life. And for me to do that, I have to go against what I feel in this moment, which is a really good point. You know, and I think something that we were speaking about before is that oftentimes we play these negative mental movies about what the outcome is going to be. We think, this is going to go so fucking awfully. And then we go and speak to them. It might not be the best conversation, but she ends up coming on a date anyway.
Strive for perfection, achieve excellence. Everything comes down. There's a great movie called Any Given Sunday. Al Pacino gives this rousing speech to the troops. How I relate to that, in the moment, you always have the decision to act as the low consciousness version of yourself or the higher level idealized hero version of yourself. And it's in the moment, being mindful, the split second decisions you make are comparing this to speech, the inches you make in life, right? And life is just one big battleground against yourself to become the most self-actualized higher version of yourself, not take the weasel loser version approach. What's the hero version of me? How would he act? How would he, what were the things he would do and the decisions he would make? And it is actually about being mindful, because I've lived my life, large parts of my life have been about numbing myself out through meaningless experience and not living consciously in the moment to be like, what's the best decision here? what would it actually benefit myself long term? It's taking the easy option.
That's great though, because that takes the emotion out of it. You can almost view it from a very objective perspective if you ask yourself that question, which is,
what would the hero version of myself do?
What would my higher version do? Yeah, what would my higher self do? And you know instantly, right? Because then you're not viewing it from your perspective, you're viewing it from almost a bird's eye perspective.
Yeah.
It's like giving yourself advice, which I think is a really good way of viewing it.
It's really hard to do though, man, because I've been battling with this for a while, right? And in the moment, biggest predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So if you've let your lower version of yourself take over for vast periods of your life, you really are not just battling in the moment being mindful, you're battling years of previous behavior, right? Mm-hmm. Those micro decisions in the moment are the hardest things. Mm-hmm. Every moment at times is the hardest.
Because they're not fun. They're not fun.
It's often the vote for the sensible delay gratification version of yourself.
By the way, quick one, you can now join our completely free day game and cold approach community where you can ask questions to myself or Les or the other coaches. You can meet wings from all around the world. You get free breakdowns of loads and loads of different places for cold approach. You get to meet like-minded men who are all traveling the world, having fun, having an adventure. You see all of the old YouTube videos as well, all of the 1,000+ old YouTube videos that got taken down there, all uploaded to this portal, and you can suggest new content you want to see. Get all of this completely for free. Link will be in the description below the video, and we'll see you there.